Welcome to Coach Taylor's class videos, and today we're going to talk about powers of a power. And real quick, I just want a few reminders of what we've been doing. If we have the exponent x to the 1, it's the same thing as x. If I am multiplying exponents, I end up adding the exponents, which gets me x squared. If I am dividing exponents, then I'm subtracting them. And then one last little reminder, if we have x to the 0, it equals 1. If I have 3x to the 0, it equals 3. And if I have 3x to the 0, it equals 1. And so those are just some quick reminders of what we have done so far. So now we're going to talk about two expressions that have the same base. What happens when our exponents are raised by a power? So what this means is I have 3x squared to the power of 4. So this right here is what we mean when we mean raised by a power. So first, let's real quick remind ourselves, parentheses mean multiply. So anytime we see parentheses, we automatically know we're going to multiply. So if we are raising exponents by a power, we are going to multiply exponents. So real quick, I'm just going to write out some steps. They're going to end up being really, really small when I zoom out, but they're going to be the perfect size for right here. So our first step is that we are going to raise coefficients to the power. The second step is that we are going to write down our base. Our third step is that we are going to multiply our exponents. And then we are going to simplify as our last step. All right, so let's look at how we do this. So when we talk about raising something to a power, we've got to have parentheses, and then we have to have an exponent on the outside. So that's what we mean by raising something to a power. Also, what this means is anytime I have a number outside of a parentheses, it means I need to multiply it by every term. So the first thing I need to do is I need to write down my coefficient, which is 2, and I need to raise it to the power of 2. So I'm going to write down my coefficient of 2, and I'm going to raise it to the power of 2. Then I'm going to write down my base, which is x, and my base started out with the exponent of 1, and so I need to sorry guys, I was trying to color code this to make it easier. And so I'm going to take the 1 of the exponent and I'm going to multiply it by 2 of the power of a power. So this is where we need to have our handy dandy calculator if we don't know our power rules or if we don't know our square rules. So 2 squared is 4. So when I simplify, instead of writing 2 squared, I'm going to write the number 4. Then I'm going to write down my base, and I know that 1 times 2 is 2. So my simplified expression is 4x squared. So again, our base is anything that is in front of an exponent. So in this case, my base is 10. Sorry, I'm doing bases in green. My base is 10. So I'm going to write down my base. Then I'm going to multiply my exponents. So 2 times 3. So now I need to simplify. So I have 10, and then we have 2 times 3, which is 6. And we've always said if our base is a number, we need to type that number into our calculator. So 10 to the 6th is actually going to be 1 million. All right, so now I need to take my coefficient, -3, and I need to raise it to a power. So anytime I have a negative as a coefficient, I'm going to put it in parentheses, and then I'm going to raise it to a power. And I'm going to show you why the parentheses matter. Because if I don't put the parentheses and then I raise it to the power, I'm going to get a negative number. But if I put it in parentheses, no. Oh, wait, I still get a negative number. But in a calculator, sometimes it will make a difference. Now, if I had 3 to the 4th, I would have gotten a very different answer. So we've got to be careful when we are multiplying or raising things to a power that we always put them in a parentheses because it will change our answers. So negative 3 to the 5th. Now, actually, let me finish what I'm doing, and then I will take care of that. So then I need to write down my base, and then I need to multiply my exponents, 6 times 5. So negative 3 to the 5th is a negative 243. I need to write down my x, and then 6 times 5 is 30. And that is my simplified expression. All right, so again, I need to find my coefficient, which is 7, and I need to raise my coefficient to the power. Then I need to write down my base, which is j, and then I need to multiply my exponents. So 2 times 3. So now I need to do 7 to the 3rd, which is 343. I'm going to write down j, which is my base, and then 2 times 3 is 6. And that is my simplified expression. All right, so now we got to find our coefficient, which is 8. And we got to raise 8 to the power, so 8 to the 3rd. Then I'm going to write down my two bases, n and p. And again, I just like to give space so I can write down my exponents. And then I'm going to write my invisible exponent of p, which is 1. And then I need to multiply both n's exponent, which is 2 times 3, and p's exponent, which is 1 times 3. And now we need to simplify. So 8 to the 3rd is 512. N is going to 2 times 3 to the 6. 1 times 3 is 3. And so we get 512 n to the 6th, p to the 3rd. All right, so if we have a number outside of our parentheses, things are going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to automatically bring my 2 down, and then I'm going to write a multiplication sign. Because anytime I have a number outside of a parentheses, that tells me I need to multiply. But I can't do that first. I have to do the exponent first. So now I'm going to write down my 3, and I'm going to raise my 3 to the power of 3. And then I'm going to write down my base, which is a, and then I need to raise the exponent to a power. So we're going to go 2 times 3. So I'm still going to write the 2 and the multiply down, and now I need to do 3 to the 3rd. So I get 2 times 27, and then I'm going to get a 2 times 3 to the 6th. And so now I can do 2 times 27, which is going to be 54 a to the 6th. All right, so again, this one's a multi-step problem. So I always need to do parentheses first. So I'm going to focus on this first set of parentheses. Then I can focus on this next set of parentheses. So the first one that I want to settle is I've got my base x and I've got my base y. And then I've got my invisible exponent of each, which is 1. So I need to raise them both to the power of 2. So 1 times 2 and 1 times 2. And that's my first parentheses. Then I'm going to write down my bases again, x and y. And then I need to raise the powers to a power by multiplying. So 2 times 2 and 2 times 2. And then I get to put those in parentheses. So now when I simplify, I'm going to simplify inside my parentheses. So x 1 times 2 is 2, so I get x squared, y squared, times x to the 4th, y to the 4th. And now we need to use our multiplication rules. So when I just simply multiply, I need to add exponents. So I'm going to write down x squared plus, x2 plus 4, y2 plus 4, and that's going to get me x to the 6th, y to the 6th. And that's as simplified as I can make it. All right, again, if the whole problem is squared, or in parentheses, and then I have the exponent on the outside, it goes to both the top and the bottom. So step 1 is I need to multiply both the 8, or raise both the 8 and the 2 to the power of 2. Then I need to write down my bases, and then I need to multiply my exponents. So 2 times 2 and 2 times 2. So now I need to simplify. 8 squared is 64, and I get x to the 4th. 2 squared is 4, and then I get x to the 4th. So if we remember, when we are dividing, we need to subtract exponents. So when I simplify, I'm going to do 64 divided by 4, which gets me 16. Then I have x4 minus 4. So I end up with 16x to the 0, and x to the 0 is simply 1, and 16 times 1 is 16. All right, so again, same thing. If I have a big set of parentheses, everything in the parentheses is going to be raised by the power of 5. So my first step is I have to raise my coefficients to the power of 5. So 3 to the 5th over 2 to the 5th. Then I need to write down my bases. So on the top I have x, on the bottom I have y, and then I need to raise my exponents to a power or multiply. So 2 times 5, 2 times 5. So 3 to the 5th gets me 243, and then I have 2 times 5 is x to the 10th. 2 to the 5th is 32, and then I have y to the 5th. So, since these two bases are not the same, I'm going to leave them alone. So when I simplify, the only thing I have to worry about is the coefficients. So I'm going to go 243 divided by 32, which doesn't help me out. So then I'm going to simplify my fraction. Okay, so it cannot be simplified. So this is the most simplified I can get. And that is how we raise powers to a power.